How's it going, Jack Tackers, and welcome back to another video for you guys. Today, I'm going to be doing my review for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Finally, I got around to seeing this movie, and of course, this is one of my most anticipated movies of the year because I'm a huge fan of the first Spider-Verse film that came out back in 2018. And I'm happy to say that this movie is pretty good. I enjoyed it, and I definitely liked this movie. However, I kind of have to preface this whole review with the fact that I was spoiled for pretty much all of the movie. And I don't really have anyone else to blame other than myself, because I should have stayed off social media until I'd seen the movie. But it is what it is. I mean, I got spoiled for pretty much all the surprises and Easter eggs and cameos, etc. So, of course, this will be a spoiler-filled review. If you haven't seen the movie by now, then, yeah, don't watch this review. But it sucks that that happened to me, but it's all right. You know, I still had a good time watching it. And there actually are a few surprises that I wasn't aware of. And we'll talk about all that in this video. But let's start off with all the things I liked about this movie. Right off the bat, of course, I have to address the animation. It's great, and even more so than the first, I would say. It is kind of off-the-wall craziness sometimes with the animation, and it's pretty revolutionary, I would say. I mean, obviously, the first film was revolutionary for animation, but this one I feel like even more so. It's got a bunch of different styles, beautiful shots in here, and there's just so many details scattered around that it's amazing, to be honest with you. And it's got great action sequences, this movie, as well. Especially in the second half of the movie is where things, I feel like, really kind of kick into high gear. And that's not to say that the first half is slow or boring, but I definitely like the second half of the movie more than the first. Because, for one, this whole movie's paced differently than the first movie. And it really does feel like this is part one of a story. Obviously, it is, because we know we're getting Beyond the Spider-Verse. Well, supposedly next year. Doubt that's happening, though, because it took so long to create this movie for different reasons. But I think we'll probably be getting it in, like, 2025 at the earliest, if we're being honest. That's just my opinion. But this very much feels like part one of a story, and it's paced differently because of that. You know, and the runtime is actually quite long, but it still takes its time, and while also being like really fast paced. It's kind of interesting how they were able to pull this movie off. But I don't know. I think I need to see Beyond the Spider-Verse like immediately in order for me to really appreciate how this movie's structured overall. Because I'd say the first like 40 minutes up until the point Miles goes into that portal and follows Gwen into, well, the Spider-Verse. You know, it's like, it really is starting to set up a lot of things. It's like, it's all set up. It's almost like the first act is elongated. And I don't know how I exactly feel about that, but it is something worth mentioning, because I feel like, especially with the ending, which we'll talk about now, and I want to talk about the action sequences a little bit more, but we'll talk about the ending, where it's basically a cliffhanger, and, you know, to be continued and all that. And it feels like it's about to enter this big, you know, action sequence, this big fight scene, and then the movie ends. By the way, I was kind of aware that's how the movie was going to end, so I was kind of bracing myself for that. But, you know, I think, you know, I hate comparing it to the first movie, but I have to, because, well, it's the sequel to the first movie. The first movie definitely felt a bit more complete. And overall, I think I liked the first movie more than this one. I will say that. But this one, once we get Beyond the Spider-Verse, I feel like I will appreciate this one even more. And so, yeah, I guess that's kind of one of my negatives with it. It doesn't really feel like a complete story. So I feel like I can't really say that it's better than the first movie, you know what I mean? But anyway, going back to those action sequences, they're just crazy and, like, adrenaline-filled, to be honest. I mean, with the music, oh my God, the music. It's great in this movie, just like it was in the last one. And that, you know, kind of, I think is it Spider-Man 2099's theme? That is so good. It is just amazing. And the action sequences where Miles is getting chased by all the Spider-Men, it's great. Like, it really is. It really made me so damn hyped. And I loved that moment where he's just trying to escape them. Without a doubt, I think the best part of the movie, in my opinion, is when he's, getting chased by them. And, of course, Miguel's, like, just yelling at him, telling him he's a mistake, which, let's talk about Miguel for a little bit. Obviously, Spider-Man 2099, and voiced by Oscar Isaac. Fantastic voice work. I mean, everyone does a great job in this movie, but he's a great character. And I, for some reason, thought he was going to be, like, a villain in the movie. He's not really, though. And, because obviously the Spot is the main villain of the movie, which, by the way, Spot was great as well. Love what they did with him. But, I mean, it's just so interesting what they did with Miguel, because he's like, you can totally understand where he's coming from, and you can totally understand where all these other, people are coming from. But that, Miles can't just let his dad die. And I think, we have this complex story there, and that complex situation, which really is, I think, one of the best moments of the movie as well, is when Miles learns about all these canon events. Another thing I was spoiled for. All the canon events memes. I was like, okay, I haven't seen the movie yet, but now I get it. And, I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory. I think it's great how they kind of dove into that. That whole scene as well is the highlight of the movie for me, where Miles is learning about the canon events, and Miguel is just chasing him down. And apparently Miles is an anomaly because he got bit by a spider from a different dimension, so he was never supposed to be Spider-Man. Heartbreaking truth. And it's like a crushing moment of the movie. But I loved that scene. And yeah, I love Miguel as well. I think he's like really a perfect character, in my opinion. He's complex. He's not a villain, at least not in my opinion. But he's kind of brutal. But, he's like, he kind of needs to be at the same time, and you understand where he's coming from. So I think that's just really interesting. And talking about the Spot really quick, he's a really interesting villain. And I'm excited to see more of him in Beyond the Spider-Verse. I really like that he's kind of played off as a joke at the beginning, and then no one's really taking him seriously. And then, later in the movie, he's like, I'm not just a villain of the week. I'm going to be remembered as one of the best villains of all time, pretty much. At least in his mind, he believes that. And I think that's amazing. Like, I actually love how they did that with his character. And let's talk about some of the other characters. And we have, like, Spider-Man India in here. He's fun. Spider-Punk, played by Daniel Kaluuya. Love that character. He's pretty... I wish we saw more of him. And Spider-Woman, as well, was in this movie. She's great. Pregnant. Was very funny. And I think she's badass. So I really love all of the different Spider people we see in this movie. All the little surprises that they were able to pull off, such as Spectacular Spider-Man making an appearance, which is funny because I just finished watching season 2 of Spectacular Spider-Man for the first time. And I was like really excited that Spectacular Spider-Man was in this movie for a brief moment. And also Donald Glover as Prowler, which is something we have been waiting for since Spider-Man Homecoming, since they teased us with that. And he's wearing the Prowler suit in live action. Another thing I was spoiled for. But that was really awesome. I love that we got that moment. And the Lego scene with Lego Spider-Man and the Lego universe, amazing. And I don't know. I think that was really great that we got that. And also Andrew Garfield, the old footage of him. I think that was cool. Of course, it wasn't new footage, but I did like that. And we also got a glimpse into Venom's universe, which I didn't know that was in the movie, so that was a bit of a surprise, where we see, I think her name is Mrs. Chen, or the woman who works at the, drugstore in San Francisco in Venom. That was cool. I didn't expect to see that, but it makes sense because obviously the Venom movies are Sony as well. And it was really awesome. I liked that. And I guess let's talk about the big reveal as well towards the end of the movie, where we find out that Miles is transported back to not his universe, but Earth 42, I believe it was. And we find out that Spider-Man isn't on this Earth, and Miles has become the Prowler. And that was pretty cool, to be honest. I really loved that reveal. I think it was very intense, where we see Miles just kind of strapped to that bag there. punching bag, I think it was, maybe. And I just love that whole scene and how it just kind of ends there. Like, man, I'm on the edge of my seat, and they just decide to end the movie right there. Which, again, kind of one of my negatives with the movie, but I can't really feel like it's that big of a negative because, like, it makes sense. We're getting another Spider-Verse movie within the next, I'm just going to say, couple years, even though it's supposedly coming out next year. So, I don't know. And I will say, another con I have with the movie, I guess, I felt overstimulated, and I feel like, I don't know if I have OCD or what, but I wasn't able to, like, read all of the little, speech bubbles that were popping up on screen, because, like, especially that one moment, you're not really supposed to, and I know that might seem like a stupid complaint to a lot of people, but I would have liked to have read some of those speech bubbles that were popping up. I read, probably most of them, but there was a lot. Like that one scene where it shows all the spider people, it was like, oh, dang. And I couldn't, like, see. I wanted to, like, pause the movie, and I feel like that it's designed for you to see this movie multiple times in the theater, and unfortunately, I don't have the time to do that, but, yeah. I don't know, I was hoping that I could read some of those speech bubbles, and overall, though, it's a good movie. I like the movie. It's good, and I'd say it probably lived up to the hype, but yeah, that's really all I got to say about it. It is very exciting that this movie's out, and now we can anticipate Beyond the Spider-Verse. And I believe there's no post-credit scene in this movie either, which is interesting. Of course, there's not really anything to tease because we're getting the next movie very soon. But let me hear your thoughts on this movie down in the comments below. What was your favorite part of the film? What did you guys like about it? And yeah, I'm very curious to see what you guys have to say about it. Post your thoughts in comments below. If you guys liked this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new. And check out my Letterboxd and Twitter in the description. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.